The Twilight Takeoff, April 4th, 1943, 2:47 p.m. Soluch Airfield, Benghazi, Libya. The desert sun beats down like a hammer on anvil, turning the tarmac into a shimmering haze. You can almost feel the grit in your teeth, the sweat soaking through your flight suit as engines roar to life. Lieutenant William J. Hatton, 25 years old and fresh from stateside training, grips the yoke of his B-24 Liberator, call sign Lady Be Good. The bomber's 4 Pratt & Whitney radials cough and thunder, vibrating the airframe like a beast awakening. Hatton glances at his co-pilot, First Lieutenant Robert F. Toner, who nods grimly. Another milk run, they hope, but the Axis skies over Europe are anything but forgiving. The crew of 9 settles in. Bombardier John S. Warafka at the nose turret, Navigator D. Hayes in the chort room, Engineer T.S. Sergeant Harold J. Ripslinger manning the top guns, Radio Operator Robert E. Lamotte tuning the frequencies, and the gunners, SSGT Guy E. Shelley, SSGT Vernon L. Moore, SSGT Samuel E. Adams, and SSGT Arthur J. Hayes, strapping into their positions amid the clatter of ammo belts and oxygen masks. They're part of the 376th Bombardment Group, the Liberandos, tasked with pounding Naples harbor, a key supply hub for Rommel's Africa Corps. The briefing was clear: high-altitude run, 25,000 feet, drop your eggs on the docks, and haul ass back before the flak finds you. As Lady Be Good taxis out, the props kick up sandstorms that sting like needles. Hatton throttles up, and the heavy bird lifts off, joining a formation of 25 B-24s lumbering skyward. The air grows thinner, colder, frost etching the plexiglass as they climb. Below, the Mediterranean sparkles like shattered glass, but ahead lies Italy, bristling with 88mm guns and Messerschmitts. Hatton's hands steady on the controls. He's green. This is his first combat sortie. But the lady's a sturdy gal, painted olive drab with her nose art, a sassy pin-up waving from the fuselage. Hours tick by in the drone of engines. The formation crosses the Med, radar silent, no enemy chatter yet. But tension coils tight. You imagine the crew's breaths fogging their masks, fingers numb on triggers. Naples approaches under a veil of clouds. Anti-aircraft fire erupts, black puffs blooming like deadly flowers, shrapnel rattling the hull. "Flak at 2 o'clock, Shelley yells over the intercom. Hatton banks hard. Warafka hunkers over the Norden bomb site, crosshairs locking on cranes and ships below. Bombs away. The Liberator lightens, surging upward as explosions ripple the target. But the run's botched for some. Scattered formation, engines straining in the thin air. Lady Be Good turns for home, trailing the pack. The sun dips low, painting the sky blood red. Fuel gauges read steady, but the return leg stretches 800 miles over open water. Night falls fast in the desert war. As the darkness swallows the fleet, Hatton checks instruments. Compass steady south-southeast, but whispers of trouble stir. A headwind stronger than briefed, pushing them off course. Lamotte fiddles with the radio, static crackling like gunfire. "Soluch Tower, this is Lady Be Good. Over." Silence. The other bombers blink out ahead, vanishing into the murk. Alone now, engines humming faithfully, for the moment. What Hatton doesn't know, what none of them suspect, is that this routine raid is veering into nightmare. A ghost flight begins, one that will echo through decades. But as the stars wheel overhead, a sudden shudder rocks the plane. Engine number 3 coughs, flames licking the cowling. Alarms blare. Hatton fights the yoke. Can they make it back? The night deepens over the endless black expanse. Inside the cockpit of Lady Be Good, the steady roar of the 4 R-1830 engines suddenly fractures. Number 3, starboard inner, sputters first, flames flickering along the nacelle before dying in a cough of smoke. Hatton feels the asymmetric thrust yank the heavy bomber left. He counters hard on the yoke, boots pressing rudder pedals. "Engine 3's out!" Ripslinger shouts from the engineer's station, already scrambling to feather the prop. The blades twist slowly, windmilling into silence. Alarms wail. Red lights pulse on the panel. Fuel pressure drops. Toner scans gauges, manifold pressure falling, cylinder head temps spiking on the remaining engines. The crew's voices crackle over the intercom. "What the hell happened? Sand ingestion from takeoff? Keep her steady, we're still heavy." Hatton fights to hold altitude at 8,000 feet now, the lady wallowing like a wounded bird. They dump the last of their bombs into the dark sea below, lightning belowed, but the damage is done. Minutes stretch into agony. Number 2 engine begins to falter, vibration rattling the airframe, oil pressure plummeting. Ripslinger works frantically, pumping fuel, switching tanks. "She's starving," he reports grimly. Hatton orders the prop feathered again. 2 engines gone. The B-24's nose drops. He hauls back, trimming for level flight on the remaining pair. Speed bleeds away. The Mediterranean should be beneath them, a glittering ribbon leading home. But the ADF needle spins uselessly, malfunctioning, or perhaps a reciprocal bearing from the ground station that fooled Hayes into thinking they were still inbound. At 12:12 a.m. on April 5th, Hatton keys the mic. "Soluch Tower, Lady Be Good, ADF out, request bearing." The response comes faint through static, a heading that seems right. They hold course, unaware the single loop antenna at base has given them the 180-degree reciprocal. Instead of turning toward the coast, they're flying straight south, deeper into the continent. The desert night is moonless, pitch black below. No lights, no horizon. You can almost taste the crew's growing dread, the cold sweat on their faces, the way breath fogs in the thin air. Number 4 engine coughs next. Ripslinger fights it, but it's no use. Only one left. The lady descends slowly, autopilot holding her steady as fuel gauges bottom out. Hatton and Toner exchange glances. Bailout. No choice. They can't risk a blind landing over what they believe is open water. The crew prepares, parachutes strapped on. "Everyone out," Hatton calls. One by one, they tumble into the void. Vorovka first from the nose, then the others through hatches and bomb bay. 8 men parachute into the night, expecting a splash, a cold swim, rescue boats. Instead, they hit soft sand. Hard. Shocked. The ground is not sea, it's endless dunes. Lady Be Good flies on alone, autopilot engaged, engines silent, gliding in a shallow descent. She skids across the Calanshio Sand Sea, belly landing in a long plume of dust. 16 miles from the bailout point, she comes to rest, broken but eerily intact. The crew, scattered in the dark, fire flares, shoot pistols into the air. 8 link up, Vorovka missing. They huddle, stunned. "Where are we?" Toner scribbles in his pocket diary. No one knows. They think they're near the coast. They don't realize they've flown 440 miles inland. But as dawn breaks, the sun rises on a merciless truth. Water is scarce. 1 canteen shared among them, and the desert waits. What happens when 9 young men, thinking they're safe over water, step into the Sahara's furnace? Dawn, April 5th, 1943. The Calanshio Sand Sea. A flat, featureless ocean of golden dunes stretches in every direction, the kind of emptiness that swallows sound and hope alike. 8 men stumble together in the pale light, faces already caked with dust, lips cracked from the dry night air. They count heads again and again. Vorovka is missing. The bombardier had jumped from the nose hatch first. No one saw his chute open, no flare, no cry. The wind had been strong. They tell themselves he made it down somewhere close. They have to believe it. Lieutenant Hatton, still in command, takes stock. 1 canteen of water among them, barely 2 quarts total. A few chocolate bars, some emergency rations, a flare pistol, a Very pistol, a compass that points south when it should point north, and the clothes on their backs. No maps, no radio, no water. They still believe the Mediterranean is only a few miles away, that a British patrol or Arab caravan will find them soon. They've been briefed on desert survival. Walk at night, rest by day, conserve every drop. But the reality hits like the rising sun, brutal, relentless. They start walking north, the direction they think is home. Boots sink into soft sand with every step. The heat builds fast. By mid-morning, the temperature is already climbing past 100 degrees Fahrenheit, the air shimmering, mirages dancing on the horizon like false promises. You can almost feel the burn in your throat, the way sweat evaporates before it can cool skin. They ration the water to sips, 2 swallows per man every few hours. No one speaks much. There's nothing to say. Days blur. They walk at night under a sky so clear the stars seem close enough to touch, then huddle in the shade of a dune during the furnace of daylight. On the second day, they find Verovka's parachute draped over a ridge like a discarded flag. Empty harness, no body. The wind must have dragged it. They fold it carefully, carry it with them, a small piece of him still with the group. By day 4, the canteen is empty. Thirst becomes a physical weight. Tongues swell, vision narrows. Hallucinations creep in. Waterfalls, palm trees, the sound of engines overhead. They shoot flares into the night sky, fire pistol rounds, light signal fires from scraps of parachute silk and desert scrub. Nothing answers. The desert is vast, indifferent. Toner keeps writing in his pocket diary, the entries growing shorter, shakier. April 6th, still no water, very weak, walking north. God help us. April 7th, saw plane, too high, fired pistol, no response. April 9th, Adams and Moore can't walk anymore, left them with last flare. The group splinters. First, Adams and Moore fall behind, too exhausted to continue. The others promise to send help. They never do. Then Shelley and Lamott lag. Hatton, Toner, Ripslinger, and Hayes push on, driven by a stubborn refusal to stop. They don't know they're already more than 300 miles from the coast, deeper than any known patrol route. On the 8th day, the last 4 collapse near a small dune. Ripslinger, the strongest, tries to dig for water with his hands. Nothing. They lie there, staring at the sky, waiting. No one speaks of surrender. They simply wait. The desert takes them one by one, bodies left where they fell, mummified by dry air and wind, preserved almost perfectly. Meanwhile, 16 miles from where she came down, the Lady Be Good lies silent in the sand, wings still level, props still feathered, fuselage intact. A ghost plane waiting for someone to find her. But no one will come looking. Not yet. Not for a very long time. What does it take for a mystery this deep to finally be solved?
Discovery in the Sand Sea. February 27th, 1959. A blistering afternoon in the heart of the Libyan Sahara. A British petroleum exploration team aboard a Douglas DC-3 circles low over the Calanshio Sand Sea, hunting for promising geological formations. The pilot, Captain Roy Swanston, squints through the heat haze. Something catches his eye, straight lines where nature draws only curves. A dark, angular shape half buried in golden dunes. Too precise to be rock, too large to be wreckage from a small aircraft. They bank tighter. The shape resolves. A 4-engined bomber, olive drab paint still visible in patches, twin tails upright, wings level, props feathered as if she had glided in for a perfect wheels-up landing. No fire damage, no explosion, just silence and sand. The DC-3 touches down on a flat stretch nearby. The geologists and crew approach on foot, boots crunching across the wind-sculpted ridges. They reach the aircraft in stunned quiet. The nose art is faded but legible. Lady Be Good in elegant script beneath a pinup girl still smirking after 16 years. The bomb bay doors hang slightly open. The fuselage is remarkably intact, only the underbelly scraped and torn from the long belly slide. No sign of human remains inside. They climb aboard through the waste hatch. Time has stopped. Oxygen masks dangle from their hoses. Flight helmets rest on seats. A navigation chart lies unfolded on the table, pencil marks still sharp. The radio set is tuned to the frequency they used that night in 1943. Ammunition belts are neatly coiled, emergency rations and canteens untouched. Even the coffee pot sits on the engineer's station, lid still in place. One of the men opens the logbook, the last entry in Lieutenant Hatton's neat hand. April 4th, 1943. Returned from Naples, 2 engines out, third failing, bailing out over the Mediterranean. They stare at the words, the Mediterranean. The crew thought they were over water. They had flown hundreds of miles inland on autopilot, deeper than any known flight path, until the last engine quit and the lady settled gently into the dunes. News spread slowly at first. The U.S. Air Force dispatches a recovery team in 1959, then again in 1960 when the initial report is deemed too incredible to leave unverified. They confirm it. The B-24 is authentic. Serial number 4124301. Lady Be Good. Perfectly preserved by the dry, windless conditions. The desert had kept her like a time capsule. But the real search begins on the ground. Scouts fan out from the crash site, following the logical escape route north toward the coast they believed was near. In 1960, near a low ridge 16 miles northwest, they find the first remains. Scattered bones, a few personal effects, dog tags. John Warofka, the bombardier, lying where he fell after his chute failed to open properly. Then, farther on, more discoveries. Mummified bodies in flight suits, some still clutching flare pistols, others curled in the fetal position as if trying to conserve the last heat in their bodies. The final group is found in 1960 near a small dune cluster. Hatton, Toner, Ripslinger, and Hayes. Nearby, the pocket diary of Robert Toner, pages brittle but legible, chronicling the terrible march, days without water, mirages, the slow falling away of friends, the refusal to give up hope even as the end came. The desert had kept them too, skin taut and dark like leather, features still recognizable as if they had only lain down to rest. The mystery was solved. 9 young men, believing they were over the safety of the sea, had parachuted into the deepest, most merciless part of the Sahara. The lady flew on alone, ghostly, silent, until the sand finally claimed her secret. Yet even now, knowing the full story, one question lingers like smoke. How does a machine keep flying when the men who trusted her have already fallen?
The discovery of Lady Be Good did not end with the recovery of bones and a battered logbook. It opened a quiet wound that still bleeds, even now, more than 80 years later. In 1960, after the last set of remains had been located and the desert had finally given up its secret, the U.S. Air Force arranged for dignified repatriation. The 9 men were brought home. Hatton, Toner, Ripslinger, Hayes, Warofka, Shelley, Moore, Adams, and Lamott, each laid to rest with full military honors in cemeteries across America. Families who had waited 17 years for answers finally received a folded flag, a telegram that said "found," and the terrible clarity of knowing their sons had not simply vanished into the sea. They had walked, suffered, and died believing rescue was always just over the next dune. The aircraft herself remained in the sand for a time. The 1959 and 1960 expeditions removed most of the valuable equipment: radios, Norden bomb sight, machine guns, even the coffee pot that had become a strange talisman of normalcy. But the lady was too far gone, too deeply embedded in a region that had become increasingly hostile and logistically impossible to reach. In the mid-1960s, a final expedition tried to recover the entire airframe. They failed. The Sahara had already begun to reclaim her. Sand drifted over the wings. Dunes shifted. By the early 1970s, she was mostly buried again. Pieces of her still surface from time to time. In the 1990s, adventurous pilots and desert racers occasionally stumbled across a propeller blade or a section of wingskin, bleached and pitted by decades of wind. Photographs of these fragments circulate in aviation forums and WWII history groups, faint, haunting reminders that the machine outlived the men by half a century. Today, in 2026, the exact location of Lady B. Good's final resting place is once again uncertain. Satellite imagery has been studied obsessively. Some researchers believe she is completely entombed now, swallowed by the shifting Calanshio Sand Sea. Others insist that parts of her still protrude when the wind blows just right. She has become a legend of the desert, a ghost story told around campfires by Bedouin guides and oil workers alike. The American bomber that flew on without her crew, landing where no runway existed, waiting for someone who never came. What remains most powerful is not the metal or the bones, but the human story etched into every page of Robert Toner's diary. The calm entries at first, the growing desperation, the final, almost gentle acceptance. In the last legible line, written when he could barely hold the pencil, Toner wrote simply, "We are finished." No panic, no rage, just the quiet truth. You can almost hear the wind moving across the dunes as those words were written. You can almost feel the cold that comes after the sun drops, the way silence becomes louder than any engine roar. Lady B. Good did not simply vanish. She carried her crew's final act of trust far beyond the horizon they expected, and then she waited, patient as stone, for the world to finally understand what they had endured. And in that long, lonely wait, she became something more than a bomber. She became a monument to courage, error, endurance, and the merciless indifference of the desert. The mystery is solved, but the story? The story never quite ends.